We are finishing up the applications of quadratic equations. In these two problems we're going to look at, we're going to use this model. And this is the distance above ground with respect to gravity. And you've got to be careful, because if you're talking about feet, then you've got the G here needs to be 32, but if you're talking about meters, the G has to be 9.8. The rest, the V sub 0 is the initial velocity. The S sub 0 is the distance above ground level initially that the object might be in. So at the time of this printing, the highest vertical leap on record is 60 inches, held by Quadratic. For this record jump, Quadratic left the ground with an initial velocity of 8 times square root of 5 feet per second. So that's going to be my V sub 0. Now if you'll notice, this is in American units. I've got feet here, inches here. Now all of this must be with respect to feet. So we'll worry about that in just a second. First thing they want us to do is write a model to express Quadratic's height in feet above ground, left t seconds after leaving the ground. Okay, so -1/2, I've got to use the 32. Now the S sub 0, he's on the ground, so technically he's 0 feet above ground level if he's on ground level. So this would be 0. So let me clean this up a bit. So that would be my model. Let me see. The next thing, use the model from that should be part A, to determine how long it will take Quadratic to reach his maximum height of 60 inches, 5 feet. Remember, if you're referring to distance in a problem, it has to be all same units, found to the nearest hundredth of a second. So S is distance above ground level, so I'm going to have 5 is equal to -16t squared plus 8 square root of 5t. I'm not going to write down the 0. So move everything over to, in this case, the right hand side. And like earlier, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So this is my A, my B, and my C. So instead of x, I'm going to put t is equal to -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Alright, so that would be a -8 square root of 5 plus or minus something all over -32. So let me move this up and bring my calculator in. And hopefully you can see it. So let's go find this discriminant. So parentheses 8 square root 5 squared, so b squared minus 4 times a times c. Oh, nice. So I don't need to do plus or minus 0. All I need to do is go ahead and divide that out. So a -8 square root of 5 divided by -32. And it says to round to the nearest hundredth of a second, and that's the second decimal place. So it's going to be approximately 0.56 seconds for him to get to 5 feet once he leaves the ground. In a classic Seinfeld episode, Jerry tosses a loaf of bread, a marble rye, straight upward to his friend George, who is leaning out of a third-story window. If the loaf of bread leaves Jerry's hand at a height of 1 meter, they're telling you this for the S sub 0, distance above the ground, with an initial velocity. This is my V sub 0. Do notice this is in meters. Write an equation for the vertical position of the bread, S in meters, t seconds after release. So S is equal to a negative 1/2, 9.8 t squared plus 18t plus 1. So I'll clean it up a little bit. That would be a negative 4.9 t squared plus 18t plus 1. So there is my equation for the vertical position of that marble rye bread. Then, how long is time will it take the bread to reach George if he catches the bread on the way up at a height of 16 meters? So this is my S, round to the nearest tenth of a second. So I've got 16 is equal to negative 4.9 t squared plus 18t plus 1. And this is just the 4th time that we've had to do this type of problem. So get everything over to one side. A and B and C. So t is equal to a negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Let me get my calculator back. Let's see if we can see this. I guess if I turn it on. So 18 squared minus 4 times negative 4.9 times negative 15. So that is 30. Okay, let me erase that line. It's a little bit long. So I'll do my upper route and I'll do my lower route. Parentheses, negative 18 plus square root of 30 divide by negative 9.8 to the nearest tenth of a second. It would be 1.3. Let me go the minus route. Now, how long will it take the bread to reach George if he catches the bread on the way up? This is the way up. So it's going to take him 1.3 seconds after Jerry tosses it. This 2.4 seconds is, it will be at a height of 16 meters on the way back down if George misses it, but that wasn't the question, so I don't need that one. So that would be my answer. Okay, you got some problems to do. So, and you're going to be using the quadratic formula, believe me.